Hey there guys, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if it's your first time. In today's video, I'm reviewing the Apos Ray 6SN7 Select vacuum tubes. Let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. So yes, something slightly different today. I imagine people watching this review are probably people who are in the tube world already, and if you're only into IEMs, well, you might be interested. Stick around, maybe somewhere you want to go and take your awesome IEMs. But I'll start off early with the price today before I forget. So the price for a single tube is $64 and it's $149 for a matched pair. I believe you can also get matched quads now as well, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, this is the box, and inside let's have your first look at the Ray tubes, and there they are. Now, if you're watching and you're unfamiliar with tubes, you're not sure what it's all about, well, I'll just quickly say that they give sound that old vintage feel, or a more analog, natural sound. It takes some of that digital edge off modern music, and it just has a special kind of vibe to it. There's plenty of information online if you want to learn more about tubes, but I'm just going to dive right in. So let me pull one of these babies out. And that's what it looks like. I'll just move the box. So that's what it looks like. That's what a 6SN7 tube looks like. And by the way, these only fit in certain types of amplifiers. So if you do have an amp or planning to buy one, you'll need to check what is compatible with it. It's a little bit confusing sometimes. Now, this is not NOS or new old stock, and what that means is most of the tubes available on the market were built many years ago, but they haven't been sold yet, or they haven't been used yet. These, however, have been manufactured new, and there are definitely benefits to that, modern manufacturing techniques, etc. And these have had some pretty rigorous testing. Like, according to Apos, fewer than 5% of the tubes they commission for production actually get to sale, so they're pretty high standards on their production value there. So on the front, obviously Ray 6SN7 Select. On the back, you've got this sort of Apos logo there. It looks pretty cool, white down there. This is a ceramic base, by the way, and ceramic, as you probably are aware, is very resistant to extremely high temperatures, so that's why they've chosen it here. Because, yeah, tubes get very hot, tube amps get very hot. Now, I have been using these, let's get into it. I've been using these tubes in my amazing Felix Audio Elise amplifier. I'll show you some B-roll of it. It's the most amazing amp. It's the only one I've got that uses these tubes. And I will be doing a fair bit of comparison with the PS Vane, the stock tubes that came with the Elise. And I can tell you, just by the feel of them, the Ray tube is a bit heavier. It feels a bit more robust. It feels more substantial. And there are definitely differences in the sound. I will get to that. But these just have a plastic or acrylic build down the bottom of the base, whereas the Apos is ceramic. The Apos Rays also have gold-plated pins. It looks as though the PS Vane might have as well. I didn't actually look into that. But anyway, yeah, the build quality definitely feels a bit better on the Ray. But anyway, I'm not going to get too technical about these. I'm not going to go in and do a deep dive on tubes and all that. I'm just going to tell you how these sound, basically, because if you're a tube roller, that's what you want to know, I'm guessing. Anyway, so the sonic characteristics of the 6SN7 Select tubes here, they differ significantly from those of the stock PS Vane tubes in my setup. And by the way, let me tell you about my setup. Like I said, tested these in my Felix Audio Elise, and that was connected to the SMSL SU9 Ultra DAC, and I was playing high-res FLAC files and some Spotify Premium. And connecting the DAC to the amp was my lovely Arctan, it's a little bit hard to say, Arctan Ruby RCA cables there. So like I mentioned, I've only got 1 amp with this kind of tube in it, and I've only got one other tube to compare against. So you'll have to take this review as it is, I mean, with a grain of salt, as always, as you should. So compared to the PS Vane tubes, the 6S-N7 Select offers a markedly warmer and a smoother sound. Treble notes are more rounded and they are softer, and they might lack the precision and the contrast found with the PS Vane tubes, but honestly, it was quite a revelation for me when I plugged these in, because I have dabbled a little bit with tube rolling before, mostly with 12AU7 tubes, but never in the past have I heard such a significant change, and the difference between these and this is really quite dramatic. The 6S-N7 Select romanticize the sound. They kind of move away from clinical exactness and instead they favor a more musical presentation, and they give you much more lush tubiness compared to the PS Vanes, and whether that works for you or not, that's going to depend on what sonic qualities you are pursuing with your tube rolling, and it's also going to depend on what kind of equipment you have on hand, because as you know, different amps have different characteristics. And of course, not to mention your speakers or your headphones have all got different characteristics. So it really depends, exactly what you are trying to achieve with your tubes, whether these ones will be good for you or not. But let's continue. So the amplification from the 6S7N Select tubes introduces a subtle touch of euphony that kind of emphasizes the mid-range while maintaining a nice balanced presentation across the frequency spectrum. Vocals are a little more upfront and intimate with these. They're very captivating and they're very kind of rich. They have a sort of a dreamlike yet high fidelity sound, and it's really exquisitely enchanting. So those second order harmonics, they're really emphasized with the Ray tubes here, and it's a completely different story from the Ray 12AU7s, which I felt had a tighter and more focused presentation, but the 6S-N7 Select, I think it's just the tubiest tubes I think I've ever heard. It really adds dimension to every note. It puts a little bit of width and depth. It gives every note a kind of an aura, a softness. It's not too soft. I mean, you still get the firmness in the bass, and the extension in the bottom and the top is still very good. But they just have this sort of very ethereal, very airy, very soft melodic sound, very fluid sound. And that sound character coincidentally worked absolutely perfectly with my Beyerdynamic DT990 Pros. Now, if you are an owner of those, or if you've read about them, you know that the treble can get a little bit edgy. They are fantastically detailed. They have a magnificent bass, but some people do find the treble a little bit sharp. I tell you what, with these tubes here, man, the treble just takes on a little bit of extra dimension, a little bit more depth, kind of more softness, maybe not as precise, as pinpoint precise, the imaging, like transients aren't quite as sharp and notes aren't so extremely separated, but it's just a very, very natural, very analog and melodic type of sound that it produces. And of course, the same thing happened when I tried my Sennheiser HD650s, although I don't think it worked quite as well with that pairing, just because the 650s are already have that kind of smooth presentation. But having said that, these don't sound messy or or smeared or anything like that. They are very cohesive. They are still fairly tight. They just add a little bit of that extra tubiness to the sound, and it really does make it quite engaging. So I'm not sure exactly what else to say about them. Like, I will bring in the PS Vane again, and I'll just say that the PS Vane is a little bit more contrasted. It's a little more etched in its sound, and probably the imaging is slightly more precise with these, but at the same time, it still has that a little bit of edginess in the treble, whereas the Ray Gold tube, the Ray Select tubes here, they just take all that harshness and sharp edges away, and you're just left with this sort of musical bliss. So with that said, I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Parfam Audiophile Style. If you're new here, you want to see more content like this, consider hitting that subscribe button before you go. And until next time, I'll see you later.